available until 7 a.m. On Wednesday or something.
Okay, so do we have to stand up and do the national anthem or something like that, to them and that sort of thing? And
I'm just looking at my volume. Hang on a second. Just get that. I'm just going to put. I'll tell you what. I'll leave them and I'll sort it out. Hello. Yeah, I've just got to be careful. I don't speak too loudly, otherwise it goes yellow.
Yeah.
Right. Welcome to another one of these. As you can see, there were 3. Then there were 2. Next week there'll only be 1. I'm only kidding. Our friend Chris is in the United States of America. Seems to be, from the pictures he sent so far, operating on a griddle pan. I may have got confused with the messaging there, but we hope you can work your fare back as soon as you can, my love. So, Tony, it's you and I left with the heavy lifting of sharing our thoughts on, because we have to bear in mind that we're on this channel. me just chatting to people was limited for me, but it kept everything a bit more kind of organised because very few people felt inclined to attack me. Whereas with the group of us, there seems to be an invisible flag saying, let's get them. So despite results, despite everything we've seen, the cult of Ange is like no other. It's a thing that I can't even get my head around. He's been treated fondly by the press. As Jonathan Liu said in the Guardian, he's had another go at him. And I'm going to come round circle back on that. But football people don't get it at all. And there's been comments on Sky and other places. How did you view our magnificent thrashing of non-league Tamworth Town FC?
It was a devastating performance. Devastating as in devastatingly rubbish.
Yeah.
I've never seen. I think I put in the chat. I think that's probably one of the worst games I've seen all season. It was turgid. Would be kind. Tamworth, bless them. You knew what you were going to get with them. They were going to rough people up. I thought the centre forward for Tamworth, Creaney. I thought he had a great game. He loved roughing up Dragusin.
He was good value. I didn't think. Yeah. It's funny you say about the roughing up thing. I didn't actually think they were particularly thuggish. I didn't get Stoke City vibes off them. I thought they were just a bit mechanical, a bit agricultural in their play. Yeah. I didn't think there was any malevolence going on there.
100%. No, I when I say roughing up, I mean as in using the dark arts, using whatever tools they had at their disposal.
Letting you know they were there.
That's exactly it. Absolutely. I think when I always think of that when I see lower league teams and they put one on them, as it were, like the first tackle in, I always feel like they should stand over them and look at them and go, "There's more of that, son. Where that came from."
Yeah. You got a bit of that, did you? Got a bit of that.
Yeah. And Tamworth played their part. They had a couple of chances. As well, look at this. Well, we are 3. We are 3.
Freshly shaven, new haircut, shirt, jumper. What the fuck's
and he's shouting at his computer, folks. That's fantastic. You've joined us all the way from where are you? The Isle of Man, Sheppy?
No, I am in the arse end of nowhere, aka North Carolina, the United States of America.
Oh.
And his Wi-Fi is still much better than what he's normally.
Yeah.
And of course, because you're operating out of a caravan, it's better quality than your own home.
Marriott Bonvoy for that.
Hey, there's obviously the secret, Chris. That's what you need to do, mate. From now on, just go park outside a Marriott Bonvoy, and off you go, mate.
Hey, Tony, last time I saw your hair, what's going on? Tottenham played yesterday. You spent 120 minutes pulling what. Strands had left out of that said head.
Yesterday morning I had hair like Axl Rose, but now it's just more like a blunt axe.
He certainly got his body from the 2000s anyway.
Bastard. We were just saying about how
reminiscing of days gone by.
We were just chatting about our gay mate who wasn't here.
How is Chris spurring this morning?
He's getting his axe sharpened. I understand.
We were just wondering if the Blue Oyster Bar was just around the corner.
I'll let you know. I'm sure there's really free.
So Chris, you're knee deep at a barn dance or a tailgate party somewhere. Chris, Tony was just telling us about his thoughts on our footballing friends at Tamworth FC. What did you think of our opponents, who we thrashed, soundly beat?
I thought fair play to them. They raised themselves for the occasion. They played well above their league standing as a lower league football club, and they showed grit, determination and passion, and they rolled their sleeves up and thought, couldn't care less who were playing. They may be alleged Premiership superstars, but today it's 11 men against 11 men, and they showed the spirit and determination that we didn't, and all credit to those boys. And then I wake up this morning to find that one of their players has been vilely abused by social media with loads of racist tweets. And
is that the lad that? Sorry, is that the lad that works in Zara?
Yeah, he put a post out saying the greatest day of my life, spoiled, and shared some screenshots. And those vile scum who publish things like that, they need executing. So that
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I mean, I am overtly politically incorrect simply because I don't like being told what to do. And I think that I know the difference. I think I know the difference between right and wrong. And occasionally I like to be wrong. It's enjoyable to be a naughty boy. We all know that. But it didn't cross my mind for a nanosecond in a game of so utterly futile importance in the scheme of things. Now, again, I'll circle back to that later on. That somebody would get all nasty and racist about that. He seemed to me, irrespective of his colour, he seemed to me like a clean-cut, decent young lad. Yeah, and anybody who's holding down a full-time job, presumably with overheads in the real world, you know, and he's not wandering around with his Louis Vuitton toilet bag and all the rest of it. I just think fair bloody goes to him. I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm shocked. I mean, I've been around the block, you know what I mean? And I will say unspeakable things to people and not even blink about it. But the idea that you would single out a black kid for this after this game, after any game, really, but this particular incident with this particular kid, having seen him in the flesh, so to speak, courtesy of our TV, I just think it's horrible.
So it's this Chris Ray guy, and he woke up to a tweet at somebody going into his Insta. And if I ever catch your little monkey's ass, I'm going to turn the tables and do what you need and take and steal my £20 I just lost back, chicken bone sucker. What justifies any individual?
The trouble is, you see, the trouble is as well. I actually think there's an undercurrent of fan out there, and it's not in football. This is in society, and this is one thing I've got to stress. Like, if anybody's not listening to what I say, pay very close attention. I'm going to be very specific with the language I use. I think this is a societal problem. I don't think it's a football problem. And you've got people out there who think by wearing certain brands and getting their hair cut a certain way, they think they're tapping into a culture which us three, we grew up with. And we saw wiped out by systematic policing. I had people I knew, so again, not using the language of I had friends, but I had people I knew well who were jailed for football violence. And that's how they stopped it. But it was part of society. And you could go to a bar and, you know, everything would be fine. And then it would go sour because there was a race thing or there was something else. There was something awful. But that's just endemic of human beings. It's nothing to do with the football. And which is why I'm so tetchy about let's have a rainbow, let's have this, let's have that. Leave football alone. Football's got a much better chance of producing decent human beings if it isn't governed. But then that's me going back to the please don't tell me what to do line, because I just don't care for it.
So that upset me a little bit. And then the other thing that upset me is if only we had the days of replays, because a replay for Tamworth yesterday would have been absolutely massive. They're a club whose operating incomes over a 12-month period of 1.4 million. What a great opportunity for them to have returned to the Tottenham Stadium, played in front of 50, 60,000 people, and also benefited from the cash that could have changed that club in more than one way overnight. So,
well, you know what I'm going to, you know what I'm going to say. This is the same as all the rest of it. It's the same as the rainbow laces. It's the same as all the silly placards and all the rest. It's cheap. That's why they do it. And the reality of making meaningful change anywhere is education, and education with money spent on it. And the only way you're going to help grassroots football is by writing them a cheque and then administering how they spend the money. I mean, the flipping goal net wouldn't stay in because one of the plastic things had severed. Okay, this is stuff that we've all seen on the parks over the years as football people. And the reality is they could have really done with a replay. Them getting served up, and that's what happened. We were watching that game, and I did on the live stack, on the Substack, several times. I said, Ange, Net didn't have any time for you anyway, but the idea that you're going to go to a place like Tamworth and then wait for these guys to run themselves into the floor, that's dark arts to me. I didn't enjoy that at all. I didn't think that was, I didn't feel that was a particularly worthy win. And I tell you what, it's early doors on the thing here, but I'll throw this in because I think it's a massive issue, and I've spoken to a couple of people online about it already. Can you tell me if I've got this wrong? I've played on plastic pitches. Now, I appreciate I haven't played on a plastic pitch in the last 12 months, but they are harder on your legs, they are harder on your physique than grass, than mud and grass. Now, can you tell me the wisdom of dragging that game out and then bringing on your star players? Can you tell me the merit of what Postecoglou did there, given that there's a North London derby in just a few days' time?
Pissed me off more than anything was, again, the lack of inclusion of Will Lancashire. Why on earth did we play Timo Werner, who is stealing a living? He's the worst player I've ever seen in a Tottenham shirt, and he was outmatched by some of the Tamworth players yesterday. You wouldn't have been able to know the difference if you didn't know that guy's background. But what better opportunity to have started Dorrington at the back, Spence at right back. Porro was absolutely bloody useless yesterday, and up front,
he was horrible, and he was actually quite aggressive on numerous examples, which I can't remember if he got a card at any stage, but it's kind of irrelevant because his entire performance to me was undisciplined, and he looked to me like a Premier League player who didn't fancy having to wrestle in with these local lads. So I thought this business, we got this glad handing thing from Postecoglou. Oh, well, you know, some of them, mate, have come from places. I don't want to listen to this piffle. I want to see you manage a football team, and you can't do it. So we get this corn dog sat round the campfire routine saying what decent human beings the players were. Porro wasn't a decent human being against that lot. I thought he was niggly and very close to doing something horrible.
So I was sat at the Wildside Grill in Raleigh, North Carolina yesterday lunchtime, sat in a bar. Is that just outside Chelmsford? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Got sitting in a bar watching the football. There were lots of women in there, may I add, and I got chatting to a couple of guys sat on their stools, and they were really
good lad. Stay away from the girls. Focus on the blokes.
Lead you astray and cost you a fortune, as divorces always prove. And they were interested in soccer, and by their own admissions, they hadn't watched the round ball game. So we had a few drinks, sat there watching the game, and they were like, they did not understand the FA Cup. And when I explained it to them, they said we would not tell the difference in the level of teams playing today. So you're telling us one's playing in the elite level of your league and the other's a non-league team with semi-professionals. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Well, we never guessed that had we watched this game without any instruction or update. They look equal in respect to their abilities.
Absolutely. I've said this many times, I'm sure on this channel in other recordings, especially in competitions. You play, in my opinion, whether it means a hill of beans, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that you should play your best players' squad first, get the game out of the way, get it done and dusted and rest them. That's it. That, to me, just makes a hell of a lot more sense. Because as soon as we put the big boys on, as soon as we put the Kulu on and what have you, the game changed completely. But it was like extra time then, and that's just like, well, you've just knackered the guys even more. I think it's almost a pathological thing with Ange that he just seems to want to try and break the players. Just wants to. I don't get this thing where he just. Constantly, he goes on about injuries and he goes on about they worked hard. Yeah, they worked hard because you just won't give them a break, or you won't put games away and then do something, and then try and rest them. And I don't get that mentality. I really don't.
I think with him, it's down to intelligence. I don't think he's that sharp. I think he's done very well at a certain level, and this is the phrase I keep on using because people don't appear to understand what this means. It means to fuse certain minds. That you can have somebody who is a brilliant bus driver, really assured at the wheel, excellent with the passengers, economical when it comes to the fuel. The vehicle is very rarely in the shop, in the garage. But can they drive a Formula One car? No, they can't, because it's a different level. And this guy, he's very good at stuff around here, but you bring it up to here, and he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, the idea that you had these guys running...
One-trick pony.
Yeah, you have these guys who are running around for in excess of 100 and whatever minutes it was. And as you said, Tony, surely to God, the sensible thing was to get the thing buried within ideally the first half. This is a non-league club we're talking about. We're not Americans in a bar sucking on chicken wings. These are. Yeah, we can tell the difference. Well, we couldn't for the bulk of the game. For example, Timo Werner wouldn't walk into the Tamworth team. I think, as you said, their guy up front was a lot more about him. But the idea that you meander away, and there was so much dead time. There was so much when Spurs weren't a threat, because that's what happens when you play a side like Tamworth. And Thick Dundee, the closest he got to it, was telling us that every game of football has its own difficulties and it's about getting the ball in the back of the net. Now, I understand that, but even me, who is not a Premier League manager, understands that he had the weaponry, he had the armoury there to damage, to hurt these guys before half-time. And what he should have had is a period, I would have said, of at least 30 minutes in the second half where he was kind of phoning it in and just containing them, because we've got superior players. But no, he wanted everybody to run an extra lap on the marathon. And I just thought it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, why can you... Yeah, go on, Chris.
I was reading the comments of the wider fan base and looking at what celebrities were saying during the game, and everybody's ridiculing and humiliating Tottenham, saying this is embarrassing regardless of the result. But you'll still have the those who leave lovely comments in this chat, and we'll do everything.
You mean the members of the cult?
Yeah. But they will continue to defend Ange. They will say, "Oh, it's a second clean sheet. A win's a win." They will use this continued piffle of project. People just need to shake their heads. They need to smell the smelling salts and wake up to reality that there is no project. We're just stumbling along. And we are not showing the organisation or the deployment of an elite sporting club. And it's just like Liverpool, that's half time in that cup game. We go back to Anfield. What's the likelihood that they're going to put 4 or 5 past us? I think probably high.
Well, all you got to do is look at the Man City against Salford the other on Saturday night. The game was dead and buried within 35 minutes.
And quite how people in the fan base and people online say we're favourites to win the Europa League. How are we favourites to win the Europa League? Have you had your head in the sand?
We haven't qualified yet. We haven't even qualified yet.
You've not been watching our performances for the last 10 games.
But you get this. But we've had this. I have to say, and again, nobody wants to hear this, so stick your fingers in your ears, kids, if it hurts you that much. We've only had to tolerate this infantile reaction to things since the new stadium was built. And we've got all of these dweeb, incel, useless, haven't had sex with anybody fans who are telling us, oh, well, we'll just win all the cups then. as if it's like a default sort of setting that you go into. And the reality is we don't look as if we're fit to win anything. I mean, you turn around and say that after, I don't know, X hours, you eventually beat a non-league side. And, great, Koo took his goal well, blah, blah, blah. But, I just don't care. I really don't care, because these guys are minnows. This, to me, was like going to the fair and winning a goldfish in a bag.
Don't do that.
When you're a child, you think you're the king of the world because you've won a living creature. It's amazing. You've done so well. And then when you grow up a little bit, you think, actually, I'm not sure this is a great idea to win a goldfish. Am I going to look after it? I haven't got a tank. And it goes down the toilet. Because you're a child. You're not able to think things through.
This will go down like a lead balloon, but had we lost that game, I'd have sacked him immediately. Because I think
he had to go. He had to go at full time.
Great. How would you have been able to justify the 8th richest club in world football and an alleged Premiership leader, well, not leader, but a leading 6th club, with this supposed project after project? If they can't beat a semi-professional football club, Tottenham is broken. And when I say broken, it leads us on to our recent LinkedIn advertising campaign to replace seemingly the whole of our fitness department with LinkedIn hires.
Which arguably is at least 5 years too late, because it's been historically poor and it's got worse since they opened the new stadium, which coincides with the fact that we've got this baggage of this. Because I was told a long time ago that there was a plan. I don't know if it's been vetoed or it's to do with the White Wells golf thing or whatever, but I was told there was a plan to have a hotel, to have a tourist destination at Hotspur Way, and that was going to be where the kind of, if you really, really want to get involved, forget the what did they call it, the thing where you go behind that two-way mirror or whatever in the stadium, the 1882 club or whatever it is,
Tunnel
where you
Club.
can get the Tunnel Club. Go beyond that. If you really want to get the sort of the DNA of the club, to quote our bald friend, under your fingernails, then you can stay at Hotspur Way. You can have a little amiable chat with a player coming out when he's still checking his stockings. And I think that's the way. And that's what they want. That's the ideal that they have in their head. But this is how they want fans to engage and consume, to use the dreadful phrase, the stuff that is the lifeblood of the club.
Well, if you look under an electron microscope or whatever it is they do to look at DNA within body cells, if you were to do that with Tottenham, all you'd see is a pound sign in a helix, because that's our DNA.
Yeah. I mean, it's extraordinary. And I published today, courtesy of my mate on Swiss Ramble, who's a gooner living in Switzerland, of course, and a fine accountancy mind, our situation with all of the money. And I've had a couple of conversations with people online recently, and it's hilarious. It's like you're talking to your granny who has to put away money to make sure she's got cash for Christmas presents. We're 8th in the Deloitte Money League. That information is in the public domain. And this guy has put out, and it's on the Substack there, go and have a look at it, has put out where the cash is. Yes, we've spent a ton of cash. And this leads us on to the situation with Postecoglou, for those of you joining us late. Postecoglou has benefited from enormous spending. I think most of that spending has been errant, has been wanting, has been poor, and wouldn't have been made anywhere else by any footballing people. And we've got fans, would you believe it, are talking about that we could be selling Richarlison. To whom, I would ask, like some prostrated owl. To whom? Who is going to buy this half-wit roadkill of a budgerigar, this useless pigeon? I mean, it's fantasy. Yes, we could sell him. We could sell him to Tamworth. They'd take him for 87 quid if they had a whip round. But they've spent a ton of money under this guy. And I tell you something, and this is for free, they're going to spend a ton more. And the reason they're doing it is not because they have faith in this thick Dundee, this PE teacher, this bus driver, this coach park attendant. They're doing it because to return to the markets, to return to the conditions of which Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, 8th in the Delirium Money, are suffocated with because of our illustrious leader Daniel Levy, is absolute hell. You know, they say war is hell. I watched Hacksaw Ridge last night. That was an eye opener. But you see Daniel Levy. Do you want to go back to the markets and mumble to Brendan Rodgers and mumble to other people that have already told you to naff off several times already? Or do you want to throw more money at this sausage that you've employed, who should be on the counter at bloody Morrison's?
Well, you said earlier...
He's no good.
You said earlier about the comment he made about, well, you know, he kind of look at games individually, etc., and all this sort of nonsense. He goes, yeah, but you say that, but there's literally zero evidence to support the fact that you actually do anything about that. You don't even change during a game, let alone before a game. So sit there and give me this homespun nonsense about, you know, each game's on its merits and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you don't change anything. You don't do anything different. So what's the point?
Can I just throw in as well? I don't know if anybody missed it or if it was misrepresented, but Ange managed to actually match his stupidity at Bournemouth, where you recall that he walked over to fans that were basically saying, F off, you fat C word.
That was repeated yesterday, wasn't it? From what I...
It was repeated yesterday, but also the fans behind him in the bus shelter were chanting wanker at him, and he was going like this, like he was at a kid's birthday party. He looked uncomfortable. The whole thing, he should have had some semblance, but he doesn't have it because he's down fucking here and he needs to be up here. Any manager worth their salt would have kept his back to those nutcases behind him, who were in the main harmless teenagers having a big day out. So it's not like I'm against people being rude in public, far from it. But I just thought the whole bit of him going there like this, I mean, you can't be doing that. It's shameful.
It's reflective of his DNA and as a person, though, because we attract lots of feedback from our esteemed audience. We just laugh about and move on. But if somebody gives him a bit of aggro, he takes it personally and he wants to square up and he wants to give some back. But in life, you just bite your tongue, and it's what's the saying? Names and words may break my boat, but names will never.
Sticks and stones, I think, is what you're looking for there, Chris.
Yeah, I'd heard that one once.
like night is day.
Yeah. So that old-fashioned thing that my mum told me years ago that I've completely forgotten. That's true, isn't it? But he's a guy who you come at him, he wants to front you up and give you some back. That's not what an elite professional coach is about.
Well, I think there is. I think there is. Like I said to you before, it's no secret. There were certain. I've got to be very careful how I say this because people will deliberately misinterpret it. There were certain sectors of society on the planet that I never bought into. I never thought that certain people were cool, right? I never thought certain people were funny. I never thought there was a magic. I'm always very much, maybe I'm the glass half empty guy. Who cares? But I'm just telling you how I am. I never bought into this business of Australians having that roguish charm. I thought that they were socially a little bit awkward because of the limited world in which they lived in. I had a friend of mine who went to New Zealand, and I spoke to him on the phone. He was actually went to school with my brother. But I used to pick the phone up because my brother was never in. And I said to him, how are you getting on? And he goes, yeah, it's all right. And he was telling me that he goes, after work, where he's dealing with cattle and sheep and stuff, he goes to a strip where there's bars on one side and fast food places on the other, sits in the bar, put half his wages into the machine, the fruiting machines on the bar, loses half his wages that way, but doesn't care because he hasn't got anything else to spend the money on. He said, and then goes home with the Chinese or whatever it is, and he said, you get to know yourself really well. That's the country that those people come from. And it may sound terribly patronising, and we're going to get some sausage-headed melt of an Australian outraged that I'm prepared to take a swipe at an entire race. But I don't care. That's what you're dealing with. And when we in the UK had to suffer Neighbours and Home and Away and all that rubbish, all that substandard toss that was on during daytime TV, which again is like saying, oh yeah, but the rugby's popular. No, it isn't. It's free to air. This was going out, graveyard shift stuff. It was popular with grannies and housewives and unemployed people. I never thought that was great. I never thought Kylie Minogue and Danny Minogue and all these people. I never got it. I never felt the magic. And I don't feel this guy's magic. I think he's a bum. Honestly.
Honestly, you are channeling David Mitchell here. I don't even see David Mitchell online on his YouTube stuff.
No,
honestly, people who know will know. If you go look up David Mitchell, because you know what he's like on.
Is he an unhinged racist as well?
No, he's not unhinged racist. That was Mitchell-esque in the kind of that high quality rant where actually a lot of rants don't make sense. They're just words that come out very very loud and like with no filter.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
That was just David Mitchell-esque. It was just elevated. I just kept getting better and better. I almost didn't want to stop you, but
we have to give some other bastard a go. I even turned Australian.
I think if looking uninterested, it made me laugh yesterday when the camera panned out and on the back row of the stand you had Daniel Levy, Donna Marie Cullen.
Oh God Almighty, that was terrible, wasn't it?
In his bunny hat.
And Langay or whatever his name is, the recruitment guy, and they all four of them sat there thinking we'd rather be anywhere but this football stadium watching a game of football at this moment. And
did you know
they sat there with any confidence watching that, thinking, "Yeah, we look good, don't we?" They would have been.
That was an extraordinary move. The commentator, because ITV are funny, they're a little less regulated than the Beeb. And a lot less politically correct.
I think the word you're looking for is less woke.
Yes, sorry. Well, I was using their language. Woke. But they let slip that Spurs had to, THFC had to ask for 14 additional chairs to be pulled out of one of the porter cabins, presumably from
the as well as Levy would have done.
For pulled out of the chairman's dining room or whatever it was, in order to accommodate the entourage that came with Ange. So you had Ange and the Chuckle brothers, the cream of Hibernians, footballing excellence, and all these other losers, these absolute no-marks, who are never going to get a career in football, never going to amount to anything, never going to achieve anything, total walk-on pass, non-speaking roles in TV adverts for advertising and heating that you get on during the day. Absolute junk. Room meat, I think they're called. Right? So you've got those guys. And then we get this tranche of executives who've come. Right? These visiting generals coming to inspect the troops, who are incapable of separating themselves from the Spurs players. So your American friends there, actually, we could tell the difference, but that was more because of an emotional investment. When you were watching the game, up until bringing on Sonny and Kulu, you couldn't tell the difference at all.
We should have been 1-0 down when that Tommy Tonks threw in that long throw.
Oh yeah,
and hit the inside of the post.
And actually,
wasn't it?
Here's one of, as much as it was an absolutely, what we saw there was complete pony. The thing is, there again, Kinski just looked a bit the next level compared to Vicario. There, his body language, his face, it was all like, yeah, I'm taking this in my stride. I'm comfortable with this. I'm dealing with it. No histrionics. Just got on with the game. Came out for corners, came out for those throws, didn't look phased at all.
Do you know why? He's probably had a better upbringing, as Czech football's not full of all the money that the Premiership is. Players probably have to graft and work harder, and he's had an upbringing and he's taken this opportunity with both hands. Yet some of our graduates, your Jaffet Tatangas and others, and your Sessignons, they come through youth team football, all of a sudden they're exposed to the big wide world of the media and they're given obscene salaries. So they've never really had to work as hard as some of these players in some of the lesser European nations.
Well, after the Liverpool game,
I think you make a good point there, and I think Eastern Europeans, generally speaking, I can only speak in recent times. I buy a lot of stuff from Polish shops, and when you go in there, you've got women working there who are like generals, and you ask them something, and you get, in a language that is their second or third tongue, you get comprehensive information. They know their stock, and they know when it's coming in. They know if they've discontinued something, and you contrast that with the drivel that you get. Because I've stopped asking people in an English supermarket for anything, because they don't even have a storeroom anymore. You know, and I think the culture, the way people are brought up, I think the expectations are higher, and they're looking for performers. And I'm talking about somebody who's selling cooked meat, you know, and you're talking about a footballer. But I think he looks much more switched on, much more intuitive, and just a bit more grown up. And also, I don't really like Vicario and all the shouting and the temper tantrum and I'm the important thing. I don't. Again, the charm of that is lost on me. Absolutely lost on me.
So the new guy yesterday did something that I've not seen for some time, and that was catch a corner. I thought that was quite impressive for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I have to say, there was a number of people commenting on that on social media. The fact that we had a goalkeeper who was capable of getting involved in a corner, opposed to had a rough idea what happened as the ball went past him.
Yeah, Vicario, he's like a vampire, isn't he? He's afraid of crosses, and he is.
I'm here all week.
Yeah, and he's terrible with the ball.
Careful you don't get signed up for Carnegie Hall or something while you're over there, Chris. You know, they're always looking for talent.
Yeah, they're actually keeping me in country to help with the inauguration for Trump next week. They've asked me if I can do the Q&As.
Well, we'll probably be seeing him on, last week tonight with John Oliver or whatever, I
don't think we will. I don't think we will. God bless you.
I don't think so either. But I think going back to actually a point you raised earlier, which was really, really important about the replays and stuff like that. There was two things. First of all, that this dropping of replays is there purely and solely at the behest of the top clubs,
just to move it along, as they don't want it.
It's just exactly. It's because the poor dears have got so many fixtures, and because they only get paid 175 grand a week, etc., etc. It must be terrible for them. But the point is that the likes of Tamworth, if you get them a replay, what Tamworth should have got out of this day was a replay, then they would have been go back to what, and the money they would have got from the gate split would have probably kept them in business for the next 3 or 4 years.
No, it would have been greater. It would have been worth, with the TV revenues and everything. It was guesstimated by a couple of media outlets. It was worth the wrong end of £1 million. Which, if invested correctly, based on the fact that yes, they need new goalposts, but they don't need a new pitch.
Well, they sellotape the current ones up, then they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I think that tape, subject to really adverse weather conditions, they're going to be good for a couple of months. And as we come into the spring, that tape could last all the way through the summer. But no, I just think that, and I know this is heavy language to use on something like this, but I think it was morally wrong that you've got a club. Because they do and the BBC, I have to say, because they're so woke, they do the whole, all the mums and the aunties and dads and the tea ladies are here because they're all born and bred and local. They really trowel that on. And I'm not convinced we got a lot of that. You all right there, Chris? You enjoying that? Yeah, lovely.
Just to put my shoelaces on. Yeah,
drop your sandwich. There we go. He's off again, folks. But they really trowel that whole thing on. With all the sort of it being Two Bob and Tin Pot and all the rest of it. But when it comes to it, do you want to contribute? No, not really. We got suckered into that Marine FC mob, who I have to say were a bunch of chancing scousers with their hands out. And somebody I saw on a forum was what was he? He was recalling fondly that he still gets updates from Marine FC, presumably because he sent them £5 or something, which was spent on cocaine, hookers, and beer, incidentally. Because if you look at the place now, it's the same as it was when the game was there. But no, the whole thing is just bent. It's really bent, and they should have given them a replay. I don't know, it sounds totally artificial, but just on the basis that they did go, and it's a horrible footballing phrase which is very used, very rarely deployed nursing, but the fact that they actually went toe-to-toe with us for 90 minutes, I felt they deserved more. And I know that isn't how football works. I understand that, of course, but I do have the right to say it. And I think they should have got more out of it.
I think their winger, the guy who, as you talked about at the start, who got all the abuse, he had Porro on toast. Absolutely had him on toast the whole game.
Do you know what? Porro's going to be better deployed as a right winger than a right.
Yeah, get Spence in at the right back. Get Porro moving forward.
Johnson's never going to track back and support his right back, so you need somebody who's got a little bit of size and muscularity around him, which Spence has. Porro can cross the ball, but he was pony yesterday. He was terrible.
What do we think about the conversation that I've seen in places with Brennan Johnson needing? Now, I know this is up high in the sky. This is like talking about what we do if we had to redecorate Buckingham Palace here, because we're dealing with something, a project so fanciful and ridiculous it doesn't bear imagination, which is Postecoglou having a tactical input during his brief tenure, and it will be a brief tenure at fucking Tottenham Hotspur.
I felt an oxymoron there. I saw an oxymoron there in that sentence.
But what are we going to? You can take that outside with you, mate. There's a Charles Bark out there. So be careful. Just be careful. But what are we going to do? What should we do? What might we do with Brennan Johnson? Because there are one set of people who I would say are close to delusional, who tell you how many goals he scored, and there are another set of people who says he doesn't work as a bloody winger.
When was the last time he went past his man?
Never.
The last time he dropped his head and either went on the outside or did an Aaron Lennon and cut back on and went in on the inside? And how many times does he help out his defensive right back? He doesn't. He's just anonymous. And we've said this time and time again. He looks like a boy in a man's world, and he looks afraid. He looks nervous. And if you can't coach that, which Ange is seemingly incapable of coaching anybody to make them better, then you need to move him on.
I think we're back to that word again. We're back to that T word, aren't we? Train them, coach them. T and C, training and coaching. That's where we're back to that, aren't we? This is where
he's a hairdresser who gets beaten up by other hairdressers.
I don't say hairdresser around Tony. He gets very upset.
Well.
I'm undermining his self-belief.
The gross GDP of my household has gone down considerably since I don't have any more hair.
Do you ever do that trick and put a light bulb in your mouth?
Well, there may be certain parts of the anatomy, but not in the mouth. Oh, you line them up, I'll knock them over.
So day 75 on Ange Postecoglou's suicide watch.
Pigs in space.
You are live on Big Brother. Please do not self-harm. What on earth is going to happen next? I mean, we've got a return leg with Liverpool, who I think are going to use us as a sex toy. We've got Aston Villa away, and then we've got the just general murderous pace of the division.
Well,
notwithstanding the North London derby on Wednesday and then Everton afterwards.
With all our rested players.
Yeah.
Players who are just so relieved that they got the job wrapped up in 30 minutes.
The North London derby, you wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham got something from that, because Arsenal are just bad. They're all over the place. Form's not been on their side.
I think that game.
We either pull out a 2-1 victory, and then, oh my God, all the Ange sexuals will be out in force, won't they? Trust the plan. Yeah, they'll be just. or Arsenal get it together, rough us up, show what they can do from set pieces, and they can put 3 or 4 past us.
Well, I can't help thinking after yesterday.
2-1 win.
Yeah, I can't help thinking after yesterday there could be a reaction potentially, because basically they got mugged yesterday.
Yeah.
But in a good way. I'm never, anybody knocking out Arsenal, even if it's Man United, it's always a good thing in my book.
And if you know anything about anything, it's not knocking things out. That's for sure.
Oh, indeed. No, I've got no idea what you're talking about there. Of course, it's all rumour and innuendo. Innuendo, eh?
It's what you're not saying. It's the innuendos.
Absolutely. But the thing is, you got this counterpoint where the common complaint that we have, and a lot of people have said about Ange, is this lack of consistency. We've gone from a great performance against Liverpool, where they absolutely worked their socks off, put in a really decent shift against a good team that perhaps, let's face it, Liverpool didn't perform like they would normally do, but you still got to play against them. You still got to do the business. Then you go to Tamworth, where they're gonna rough you up a little bit. They're gonna make it uncomfortable, but you've got the class to actually and to get past that and just bury the tie. We don't do it. So we're back to this kind of. You can't really call it a cycle. It's like an up and down graph, isn't it? It's just like one day we're up there, the next day we're down there.
Can I share with you an insight? When I first got my Akita stroke Rottweiler 55 kilo dog, who was 2 years old and had not been socially adjusted with any other animals, and still had a healthy prey drive in his last days on the planet. Bernie the Bolt, and people, you walk down the road with him and say, "Oh, it's your dog, man." And I said, "Yeah, fully trained. Only had him a couple of days, fully trained." And I'm like, "Really?" And I used to go, "Bernie,
he's a big wanker.
Bernie, do what you want." And he would do exactly what he wanted, and that's what you're dealing with Ange. This is the explanation to the riddle of the pyramids, the business of why is there so much inconsistency. It's because Ange goes into the dressing room and, in essence, says to our multi-million-pound footballers, "Okay, guys, do what you want." He has no control. There's no guidance. Yes, he has his crackpot system where it's Torah, but beyond that, we've watched him. Look, I'm not making this up. I'm not telling you I've been to a secret room with secret cameras. We've watched him live on TV. He doesn't do anything. He stands there with his hands in his pockets. Sometimes he gets emotional and punches the air when things get really shitty, but that's when it's shitty personally for him. But as a football coach, he is not mimicking any other coach you've ever seen. He looks like a dead man walking.
And in respect of his recent question, are you not entertained? No, I most certainly wasn't after that pile of shit yesterday.
And Torah certainly didn't apply yesterday either. There was no Torah. There was no pressing down. They allowed them to play at their pace. They allowed them to dictate a lot of the game.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was an embarrassing performance. I've kind of come away from Twitter a little bit because it's just noisy and I don't need that at the moment. But the endless business of, I saw somebody yesterday or last night online and said, "Oh yeah, I quite enjoyed that." And I thought, what part of that did you enjoy? Were you stuck in the toilet? And then the toilet was okay. You didn't mind being locked into a lavatory. And then when you came out, you watched Spurs bundle the ball over the line and then score 2 other goals. And you quite enjoyed that. What is your life like? Was it just because you've been stuck into a bathroom beforehand? I just don't.
Frankly, I would have preferred to have been stuck in a bathroom passing a large one rather than watching that. Honestly, it was absolutely disgraceful.
I brought from having my teeth pulled out by the dentist who had the soles of his feet on my chest to get last few remaining ones out. Yeah. I mean, the idea that you would have any enjoyment watching this. The closest we've got was, and again, go back to it for those of you joining us late, were those 10 first games where we got occasional glimpses of what we thought was Ange ball, but it wasn't. It was new manager bounce.
Found out in the 11th game, and since then it's been distinctly all downhill.
And I have to say, just again, because if we don't batter these people, they're not even going to even attempt to receive the message. What I've noticed are the comments from these born-again disciples of the fat man. They're all coming in the middle of the night, which tells me they're in that part of the world. Because you go to bed at midnight and there's nothing there. And in the morning, thing you don't understand is copper. You may as well have them with an AI accent, giving you this Celeste Patterson addresses the world nonsense. These people don't understand how to get dressed properly, let alone what goes into football.
There was a part in the commentary yesterday which really made me laugh and kind of brought it home about Ange. They were talking about his success at Melbourne Roar and all these sorts of things, and I'm going, what the flying figurative fornications of nature are you talking about?
Who in their right mind refers to Melbourne Raw with any sense of, gravitas? I mean, this is a bit like saying, oh yeah, I was a really great whatever I was when I was 12. Nobody cares what you were doing. I'm just trying to find the Jonathan Liu quote, and I've got a feeling it was on bloody social media somewhere. So I'll just have a look on here.
Guys, I'm going to have to love you a few minutes.
Huh?
I said I'm going to have to love you, fine fellas, and leave you in a few minutes.
Okay, I won't bother looking for this thing. But Jonathan Liu had another pop at Ange after the game yesterday, and I felt rightly so. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Guardian or that particular writer, but I think he's actually seen something there, which is true. I think this is absolutely true, and I think the jig is up amongst the footballing intelligentsia, dare I use it. Whereas your average half-wit thinks everything's great. So, Chris, are you off now? Shall we say goodbye altogether? Because I think we're kind of done, aren't we?
Yeah, I will be waiting with bated breath for the Arsenal game. And then I'm back with you on Sunday. So look forward to probably speaking again to mop up the Everton encounter, which, in my opinion, is a 6-pointer.
Yeah, well, it's one of the we've had more 6-pointers this season than I can recall in for a long time. But that's where we are with this clown.
Not too successful in them.
Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining us. We've loved it, adored having you with us. If you liked it, hit like. If you didn't, don't touch the like button. But if you want more, hit subscribe. Keep it on.